and welcome to At the Forefront Fintech Conversations. I'm Sam Belden, head of content at Forefront Communications, and with me today is Eric Soderberg, one of Forefront's two managing partners. How are you today, Eric?
I'm good, Sam.
That's great. We are here to talk about an article that Forefront recently produced on the importance of messaging for B2B Fintechs, how companies in this space can figure out what they want to say about themselves and position themselves, and how they can apply this messaging work to real world business settings. So Eric, maybe we can start at just the highest level. Give us an overview of what messaging is, what goes into it, and why this is so important for B2B Fintechs.
Sounds good. And, Sam is one of my favorite topics, so I appreciate taking the time to talk about it this morning. So the concept of creating key messages is, of course, that is not a novel thing for Forefront. I think pretty much any ad agency, communications agency endeavors to do this for their clients. But I think there's a big difference sometimes in what that sort of output may look like. At Forefront, when we develop key messages at the beginning of an engagement, the output usually looks somewhere like 4 to 6 key messages with some supporting points to back them up. At a high level, I think we'll probably talk a little bit more about this in detail later, but at a high level, they need to communicate who the firm is, what the firm does, and why people should either choose to buy your products and services or perhaps choose to work at your firm. And they're just critically important for consistency's sake. Telling the same story in a repeatable way is just hugely important in getting your message across, not only for consistency of message purposes, but good key messages should also make the lives of the people at your firm that do marketing communications a lot easier.
That's great. And let's zero in on that point about making things easier. Can you give us a few examples of how, having the right key messages can streamline marketing and communications work as companies grow?
I sure can. Let's start with the dreaded award submissions that anybody in this sort of B2B fintech space is very familiar with. And the need to put in that 300-word to 500-word description of your firm. And you get asked the same question pretty much on every one. You've got two choices. One, try and come up with a new way to talk about the firm every time you submit an award submission, or go back to well-written, well-crafted key messages and start from there. I would argue starting from the well-written key messages would probably cut that time by 90%. And you can use the same answer on pretty much all of them. I would say another good one is, when those that have to write press releases and you try to say, well, I need to come up with a new quote here for my executive. What is he going to be quoted on? What's he going to say? Refer to your key messages and pick one of those. Reinforce one of those. I would say the same thing for thought leadership. Your company is interested in putting out a piece of thought leadership or a blog post every month. What are we going to write about? Look at your key messages. Write content that is going to support those, and it's going to help you tremendously get your message across.
That's great. And I think with all of the different program areas that encompass, fintech marketing today, content, PR, digital, just anything that can allow these professionals to work faster, make their lives easier, is going to make a big difference.
100%.
So I know a lot of companies that we've worked with over the years put a lot of thought into their vision and mission statement. Can you tell us a little bit about how those things might relate to key messages?
Yeah, they are very related to key messages. Another thing too that you see many times is people will have core values. I would say the big difference between vision, mission, core values, and key messages is that the vision, mission, and core values are typically aimed or geared towards the employee or that internal audience, whereas the key messages are really more of a tool for communicating externally. This does not mean you're not going to find key values on people's websites or their mission and vision statements. I think you'll probably find them most often on the About Us page or in the careers section. They don't often make their way into sales material and PowerPoint decks and those sort of things. So that's the big difference, I think, really, is an internal versus external audience.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So in the article, you list a number of factors that we believe make for a really strong and compelling set of key messages. Can you give us a few examples of what companies should be prioritizing when they're going about this exercise?
That's right. I'll give you a few of the key ones. There are more in the article, but I think one important thing is, of course, you want to be bold with what you say in your key message. You do want them to draw some attention to your firm, and bold statements, I think, are a helpful way to do that. Of course, they need to be differentiating. You have to make sure that people understand what is unique and different about your firm versus your competitors. I think they also need to be very succinct and repeatable. You want everybody in your organization, if asked, to be able to answer very quickly what it is that makes your company special. I know that and I would hope that if you asked anybody here at Forefront, what our key messages are, they would say, we're specialized in B2B Fintech. We are deeply experienced. We've just been doing this work for a long time. And we've sat in your seat. We've been in-house CMOs before. I think that's quick, that's easy. I think everybody knows that. And as a result, that's the answer you'll probably get each time, which is super helpful. I also think, in related to that key messages need to be usable. I mentioned this at the beginning, that we develop usually 4 to 6 key messages, and they are described succinctly in 1 or 2 sentences, so they can be used in materials, as an example. We've seen firms that have come to us looking for help. They've gone through these exercises before. The deliverable they've been given is along, sort of a story about their firm. There's a narrative about the firm, or it's literally a list of like 15 things that they want to be known for. It's not memorable. It's not usable. And as a result, I think you're left to sort of interpret these things. You're continually rewriting them. People are taking their own sort of angle on what they think it means. So it is just so critical to have a usable key messages that you can use in all your materials and continue to repeat.
That's great. And I know that there are a couple other criteria that we outline in that article. So encourage everyone listening to check that out to get a full look at what we think is most important when you're going about messaging. Yeah. So, you and I and the rest of the Forefront team, we've worked together on a ton of these messaging exercises over the years. So what can you tell us about Forefront's own approach to key messages?
Yeah, these approaches vary considerably. One of the sort of advantages I think we have, so many of us on the team have come from the client side, is we've been involved in these messaging exercises when we were in-house with other agencies. So we've seen a lot of these processes over the years. I know personally, I've been able to look at things I thought worked well and didn't work as well. Everybody has their own approaches. I think one thing that we do that I have not seen others doing is, when we're doing our sort of research, we tend to conduct our interviews with the key people, not just the key execs. We always try and speak with people on the front lines, whether it's sales or support. We get somebody from product. We talk to many of the analysts in that particular space as third-party references. We talk to partners, we talk to clients, but we do all of it in one-on-one sort of interviews. What is most often done is group settings, discovery in group settings. And we've just found that the practice of doing that, you tend to get the loudest voice in the room sort of takes over. And then whatever that person thinks is what's most important about the firm tends to get people nodding their heads, and that becomes it. But from the one-on-ones, it enables us to sort of pick out those things that we might start to hear consistently across the board and pull those together. It seems to be a very effective way of coming up with what's really unique about the firm. Of course, our key messages follow those principles I mentioned earlier about being bold and differentiating and succinct. But when we do key messages at Forefront, we always have an eye towards sort of what's coming next. And this process is hugely important, particularly when we're building a brand and building a website, et cetera, for a client. And we use these key messages to truly inform everything, from the logo, from the tone of voice we decide to adopt, the color palette, the images. It is hugely informative of everything that goes into a brand. And I'll just give you a couple examples real quick. We did work for a company called Broadway Technology, and you can see their website at broadwaytechnology.com. Through the messaging exercise, it became clear that a big differentiator for them, and something they really wanted to be known for, is having this combination of incredible technology components, but at the same time, an incredibly talented team of individuals, and how they would work with clients very closely to build custom solutions for the biggest challenges. That concept of technology and people drove everything about that brand, from the tagline, where tech meets intellect. If you look at the website, you'll see there's an equal mix of the people component and the technology component. And I think you'll see it comes together really well. And again, that's all from the messaging exercise. Another interesting one, I think, to look at would be ViewTrade. That was a bit challenging at the beginning. There were actually two companies owned by the same firm. One was a broker dealer and one was a technology firm. Different companies, different names, nothing the same. So we had to merge them. But what they wanted to make crystal clear to people is that they were a modern technology firm that was designed for innovative people. People that are thinking outside the box on how to apply and use trading technology, this concept that anything is possible. And you'll see from their website how that sort of comes to life again. I think their tagline there, a wealth of possibilities, plays off the fact that they're in the wealth management space, and the idea that really anything is possible when you use their tech. So a couple of good examples, I think, of messaging driving really everything there is about the firm. So hugely important.
Absolutely. And I know you touched on this before, but when everything is in sync like that, the messaging, the website copy, the design and visual profile, it just has such a powerful effect you can't replicate any other way.
That's right. I totally agree, Sam.
Awesome. Anything else to say about this topic of messaging?
Just that it's hugely important. I mentioned it in the context of us doing brand building work. We do similar exercises even when we're just doing content for a firm or just doing media relations. It's always important to know what the key messages are, so you know what leverage you should be pushing and pulling at the right time. So that's huge. I encourage people to read the blog post, which has a little more information in it. I would also, given this time of year, we developed a piece earlier in the year on budgeting in this B2B or institutional fintech space. That's also on our website. No better time of year to take a look at what we learned there than now. So I encourage people to check that out as well.
That's great. Well, thanks for your time today, Eric, and thanks to all of you for tuning in.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sam. Have a good one.